Hi, nice and early, Sunday morning. I couldn't sleep, so I thought it was about time I put another video up. Video that's a little bit different to what I normally put up. I've been mentioning over the last few videos I've done on the bulbs of a collection that I picked up from a gentleman living in the north of England. Now, amongst his interesting bits and pieces was this. It's a complete set. It's antique quack medical device. It's called a violet ray, and I'll talk a little bit about it. They were first popularised or first shown in 1893 at Chicago. It was then they became very popular in Europe and in America, and I understand that very many doctors, if not all of them, GPs as we now call them, would have one of these as a standard piece of equipment that he would go out and deal with ailments of his patients. It's completely quack, but nevertheless it's an interesting item, and I was a bit dubious about buying this at the time, but as I say, when I'm clearing the room or sorting the stuff up in the room, I found this. I thought, that'll make a good item to put on YouTube. So here goes. I can show you the different probes which had various purposes. They're mainly to rub over the skin, or there's one that looks a bit like a comb. That would be to apply between the hairs onto the scalp. You've got different shaped ones which were obviously made to be applied on various parts of the body. Without getting too technical and inquisitive, I can just imagine what some of these were used for. There's one there which is quite nice. I've actually shown this one in the equipment. It's like a little mushroom, and that would be applied, just gently applied over the skin of your hands, arms, feet, anything like that. Now I must also show you, in the box we have an item here which is not glass, it is simply metal, and the idea of that would be applied into the holder, and once switched on, someone could hold the end like so and transfer the energies with his other hand over to a patient. Sounds very dangerous to me, but that is what that other probe was for. Don't ask me why they're colours. I don't know. Someone out there might know this. Let's have a look. Now, before starting this up, because I didn't know how safe it was, and as it's connected to the mains, it's always a bit dodgy. So I thought I would make sure the plug is wired up okay. Now I can show you the plug. It immediately tells you that it's German made, which it is. There's the plug. It's a form of Schuko, but look at the pins. They're not the normal pins. They look like they went into a special receptacle which would not allow the normal Schuko to go into. But anyhow, I can show you this working, because we can always cheat, and I popped it on a little adapter so we can plug it into a 13 amp plug. But before I looked at it or checked it out, I opened the plug up to make sure it was in fact wired okay. Now, I must mention, as I suspected, the wiring code is not what we know. I have come across this before, and I have mentioned it in various YouTubes and there again, because I think it's important. Normally in England at this time, which is quite old, the wiring would have probably been black, red and green. Green being earth or ground, red being live and black being neutral. That is what we used to use here in Britain, and I think in many other places around the world. Well, some of the continental countries were a little bit different. I'm thinking of Germany and Italy. They use a totally different colour code. Their live and neutral were, one was grey or slate and the other wire was black. So you had black and you had slate or grey. Slates that were what they normally call grey as regards wiring. Now we're left with the earth wire. Now remember what I said, red in this country was used for live. Not in Germany. Red is the earth. So if you ever get old equipment, do check it. You can use the actual wiring as long as you know that on the very early stuff, particularly from Germany, and I've also noticed this on equipment that we used in the post office or the GPO, which came from Italy, showed this same colour code, grey, black, red, where red is earth. So be very, very careful. Don't mix the earth up with live. Anyhow, enough of that. Let's have a look at the actual box of tricks. It looks old, and it is old. Let's have a look at the name on it. Strala. I think Strala means producer. My German friends will probably translate this for me. You've got the voltage 110 to 220 and the type Strala. I know nothing about it except that it was manufactured in Germany. You've also got a little adjuster, and that would be to adjust the intensity of the probe. There's the probe itself. The glass tubes are pushed into the probe, which produce, well, it's not the probe, but very high voltage is produced at the tube, and the gas in the tube we think is possibly argon. It gives that lovely violety colour, and if you've got an argon neon, also glows with the same colour, and it gives out a little bit of UV. So let's have a little look at it working. I've got to be careful because it is a bit dodgy playing about with mains. Disconnect that. We'll pop the German plug into an adapter. Now, by putting it into that, it is not earthed. So that is something to remember. It is not earthed. It's into a non-standard type of equipment. Now we'll plug it in. I've disconnected or not disconnected, but I've taken the control right off. We've plugged it in. It hasn't gone bang, so we should be okay. Now watch what happens as I gently turn the adjuster. We've got a vibrator system, and look at the tube itself. Now, I'm not the thing is, these tend to leak, and I'm actually receiving shocks through the casing. So there's what happens with the tube, and you would apply that onto the, you can hear it clicking. I'm getting an arc from my finger. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to turn the pressure down. It's just as separately coloured. And even now, I'm still getting a spark. You can see there. So these things have to be treated with respect. Although the voltage is very, very high and the current is very low, they can still make you jump. So I wonder how these early doctors, or quacks as they were called, the ones that weren't real doctors, how they actually got on. But these were very popular in the old days. I say the old days, I love the old days. I wasn't about in the old days, although some of you think I might have been. Anyhow, that is all I think I can say about these. As I say, there's various different tools. There's one there which is made like a paint roller. You've got a cylinder which is loose, which is obviously rubbed over the body. Got this one which I covered because there wasn't a spare thingy for that. This probe's a bit different. You've got connectors at both ends. So if you pick that up just as that, you may have thought it was a lamp, but as it's connected with these sets, it's obviously not. There's various different bits. Now what is funny, eBay are selling, or you can buy them, modern ones made in China, and they're sold to the beauty people. It's all quack stuff. It obviously doesn't work. It uses a bit of kidology, as it's called. If you think it's doing you good, it'll do you good, so they say. But anyhow, these were used in a time where they were thought to work, and you know, I think they could be quite dangerous if the controller went wrong and you had mains coming out from where the probe goes in. But anyhow, there we are. Comes in a beautiful box, and in the box itself you would have had provision to put the equipment in. The probe is, I think, is held in there. This was not it wasn't in use when I got the box. I just got the box, and the probe was separate outside. It is connected with the box, but I think the person thought it was safer to bundle that up and keep the two separate, although, as I say, they are from the same set. And incidentally, if you were to break any of these probes, you can, and I've seen them, be picked up on eBay as well. There's obviously a lot of interest in these. This set seems to be a very large set. Most of the sets I've seen just have the one set of parts. Here it's doubled up. A lot of the parts are in pairs. You've got that one there, which is the same as the one that's in the probe. So it's quite an interesting thing. I thought it'd be worthy of putting on YouTube. There are others of these on show I've seen. We want to look them up. They're under violet ray machines. That should find it. And there's a bit of history. The history goes back to old Nicholas Tesla, or Nikola Tesla. He was virtually a genius when it came to extreme high voltages. There's a picture of him sitting in a Faraday cage where all the electrical stuff was all the way around him, flashes and what's it, and he was perfectly safe. And he made many experiments. He was employed at one time by Edison, who he fell out with, rightly so. He went with George Westinghouse, who saw that he was in fact a genius, particularly with alternating current. And through him is now why we get the power distribution that we do get. It's AC, polyphase or three-phase, and not many people know this, it seems. I've tried to explain this to various people that have called in the house to do jobs, and I've said to them, oh, don't use a power tool from next door. And they sort of look at me and say, why? I say, well, if you connect the live up from your neighbour and you go to the live in your house, it's 440 volts. And I'm normally poo-pooed as if I'm stupid. And someone even says, oh, well, it comes into the house at 440 volts and it's mysteriously dropped down to 240 in the fuse box cabinet, which is another stupid thing. But anyhow, be wary if you ever have an extension lead in the garden. Don't get mixed up with next door's neighbours. They normally work in it's every third house. So the phase that I'm on would be not my next door neighbour, but the next neighbour. So it goes in three. It's on three phase. Anyhow, I'm wandering off the subject. Anyhow, I'm going to close down now. I'll give you a last little look at the box. This has got a cover that goes on top. I took the cover off so you could see what was inside. You've got like a trembler arrangement in there. I don't know if you can see it, but the contact is moved in and out by this threaded part. Just gently wind it up now. That would be on the lowest. You can see it's just perceptible. You wind it right in. You can see what I mean. It is much higher voltage, and it's darkened beautifully well. Probably throwing all the pictures off of the local TV sets around here, so it's not advisable to use. But in those days there wasn't TV, so there was no problem. The black part you see is in fact a coil. and you've got a capacitor there. I think that's a capacitor. It looks very much like it is. This has been not interfered with, so it is as it should look. It's all intact, and so far it hasn't gone bang, so I trust it's okay. Anyhow, thanks again for watching. Any comments please make. I'll try and answer them, but remember there are some more of these shown on YouTube. If you look up violet ray machines or quack equipment the doctors used, something like that, you will definitely find these. It's an item worth having. I'm glad I did get this. It wasn't cheap, but it was well worth it. So once again, thanks. Please subscribe, please like, please pass comments, and we'll get back with something else today. I don't quite know what, as I'm having a little look at the room upstairs, and I'm amazed by what is up there. It seems I picked up a lot of these bits and didn't really look at them, so I'm having a look now. Behind me, as I've shown before, are my figural lamps, which also came from the same gentleman. So, you know, it was quite a collection. Anyhow, thanks again. I'm going to stop talking. I've probably sent you all asleep. Thank you again. Thank you very much for watching.